I think one of the topics in my title originally was around the workforce of the future and how digital tools can be used in the workforce of the future. I'm still going to touch on that topic in the presentation, but just because this new research is just out, I thought it would be interesting for people to have a look. So when Accenture talks about Industry 4.0, we couldn't just use Industry 4.0, we had to come up with our own spin on it. So we came up with a topic, a theme called Industry X.0. And essentially, there's a few different ways of explaining that, but one of the ways is that I like quite simply is that a lot of Industry 4.0 focus around moving to digital manufacturing is around primarily focused on driving efficiency and lowering cost of goods sold and getting more product out the door and being more agile. And that's a really important area. I think what's also worth considering is that the other idea is around how new technology can drive top-line growth, can help bring new products and services to market, not just bring below-the-line growth in terms of increased profit margins or maintaining profit margins, but also can drive new experiences for the customer through combination products, combinations of a service and a technology, and so on. So we talk about how we can combine technologies to drive. The key thing is value below the line in efficiency and above the line in bringing new products to market. And if you're bringing new products to market and you're exciting the customer and the shareholder, you're going to drive market capitalization growth. So this is just a piece of research that we did on surveying people in multiple industries about how they could see combinations of technologies that are all buzzwords in the Industry 4.0 space coming together to drive the creation of new products and services. So an obvious one is, putting, machine vision and artificial intelligence into cars to bring, and getting towards transport as a service as opposed to, autonomous cars and transportation as a service. Now, this is obviously an area that is well advancing in the automotive industry and is really driving market capitalization of companies like Tesla, who aren't making a lot of profit but are creating a lot of hype because they're bringing new experiences to customers using Industry 4.0 technology. So you can see automotive here, by combining technologies, can see in the future there's going to be further 9% growth. It's actually I would argue, quite low compared to some of the other sectors. And that's because automotive are probably one of the more advanced industries in doing this already. They're already actively combining technologies. In the life science sector, where I'm active, it's 12%. It's not shabby, but again, there's probably a perception in life sciences that Industry X.0 is probably more important for driving efficiency, that the new drugs of the future are going to be still uncovered by discovery, not necessarily combining a piece of IoT sensorization with another piece of technology, that this combinatorial thing is probably not as important in pharma as it would be in other industries where you can really combine technologies together. On the other hand, if you look over here, the potential of combining technologies to save cost in manufacturing, actually so life sciences has one of the highest potentials to gain, also medical technologies, two of the industries that are really important in the Irish market. So highly regulated industries have to be zero defect. That leads to a lot of inefficiency in manufacturing and a huge potential for better use of technology to drive efficiency. So it's a very detailed slide. I don't intend to drain it, but it just gives you a sense of some of the research we're doing, and it can help for folks doing trying to make a business case for investment in technology. Some of this material can be useful, and it's available on our website. And we have a stand with the IMR actually here today, where some of this material has been. We've published it, and we have it for people to pick up if they'd like. So the message here is that at the moment, while many companies believe that they can use technology to drive both top line and bottom line gains for their company, only a very small percentage of companies are actually feeling they can achieve that. Senior executives feel they may have invested heavily in Industry 4.0 technology, but they're not necessarily seeing the gains at the top line and the bottom line yet. And effectively what they're saying is that one of the biggest challenges to getting there is their inability to effectively combine technology. So it's all very well making a kind of modular investment with one piece of technology or another piece of technology, but actually the challenge is in the combinatorial approach and bringing that multidisciplinary capability together. Another interesting topic is just this idea that, and I think the speaker from Microsoft alluded to it earlier as well. This idea of trying to upskill your workforce and get them more digitally ready, and looking at things like training and upscaling and bringing in a more diverse capability into the workforce to be ready to deal with digitalization. So while 82% feel that they have made investments in industry in digital technologies relating to Industry 4.0, only 10% feel that that one of the key elements that we think are important for companies to get these gains is that they feel their ecosystem is not ready to help them. So we've done some research on this topic and found there's essentially 5 external factors to the company that can help the company to get the return on investment from Industry 4.0 investments and from combining technologies. One of the most important is your ecosystem ready? Do you have the regulators working with you, the standards agencies, other companies, the venture capital community, working to get the government working together to help drive this? So essentially, we've found through the research that there are essentially 5 value triggers, 5 factors external to the company that will help drive the ability to combine technology. So one is the latent value potential of that technology. Will it drive cost savings? Will it drive market capitalization growth? Is your talent ready? And is the talent in the ecosystem ready for this technology in the location that you're working? Is there sufficient capital adequacy? Is there enough venture capital being poured into the technology that you're looking at working at, or is it still a little bit in the academic sphere? Is there a high level of adoption intensity from other industries that you can learn from? And this key thing that I'm going to touch on a little bit is this ecosystem maturity. So I wanted to focus on this because I guess today is a really good example of the Irish ecosystem is actually quite vibrant, and it's great to see so many people here talking to each other and sharing ideas. But I think given the importance of this and what the companies are saying, that only 10% of executives who are heavily invested in Industry 4.0 feel that their ecosystem is actually helpful to them in getting the value from that investment. I think there's probably more we can do to do this. And I think events like this, but also I wanted to give a shout out to the folks in the IMR with whom we're collaborating, because I think they're really helping to drive that ecosystem, bring people together, share learnings, do demos, make sure people are small companies are learning from large companies and vice versa. And I think this is an area that I think Ireland can really shine in. This is a global survey, but I think Ireland can really be a standout performer in having a vibrant ecosystem where people share ideas and so on. I mean, Accenture is quite excited about what we're seeing in the Irish market. I mean, we've, from a relatively small beginning a couple of years ago when I joined, we're already seeing a lot of potential in the market. But I do think the only way we can really fully realize the potential is by working together. So this is just a survey of what's at stake. If you just ignore this, if you decide, you know what, it's too complicated, intellectual property rules, I'll just do it myself, I'll keep it internally, I won't engage with my ecosystem. Effectively, this is a survey that's showing that companies in the years 2013, 2016, who were very actively engaged with their ecosystem when they were making investments in Industry 4.0, saw much bigger gains and cost savings in their in their return on investment, because they defrayed risk, they learned from other companies, they didn't make the same mistakes again, they learned the governance programs and so on, the best practice in terms of implementation. Whereas companies who tended to be a bit more proprietary and hold on to their ideas were less successful. So we looked at a couple of different technologies that are, like, as I said, buzzwords in the industry at the moment relating to Industry 4.0. Obviously, and these are technologies that can be combined. I talked earlier on about the idea of the real value is when you combine technologies together. So big data is one of these technologies that, I think it's highly mature. Companies can kind of reliably invest in big data, given the fact that it's got a strong value potential. You've got reasonably good talent readiness internally and externally, although it's a huge competition for talent in this space. reasonable capital adequacy. Probably the V&A, the venture capital community has stepped back a bit, but there's already a lot of large enterprise companies investing in big data, so there's a lot of capital adequacy. And just generally across these various spectrum, you'll see compared to other technologies that it's quite advanced across most of the spectrum. So investment in big data, as long as you know what you're looking for and you also accept that one of the big challenges in big data and analytics is actually the hard yards of data engineering, not just the cool data analytics piece. It's certainly one that's worth continued investment given the complexity that we face in manufacturing. Robotics, again, by comparison, a little bit less strong in terms of some of the metrics, and again, that can be that in certain industries, robotics are just not relevant. Also, probably the idea that a little bit more relevant for cost savings rather than bringing new products to market. But nonetheless, a kind of a mature technology. I think where we're seeing today the new developments with areas like collaborative robotics, I think is where there's going to be a lot of further investment, and we see that also in the VC community. Artificial intelligence, again, huge, tremendous potential. A lot of venture capital investment. Probably a little bit less in terms of ecosystem readiness. So how do regulators deal with an artificial intelligence-based tool where it may be somewhat black box in terms of how decisions are made during, say, the quality inspection of a product or the release of a product based on AI analysis of quality data. So certainly one that has a lot of hype, high on the hype curve, but maybe a little bit more to do in terms of development and ecosystem maturity. And then one of the ones that, again, you see a lot of here, it's a little bit cool and sexy, but also has been accused of being a bit gimmicky, the whole area of immersive technology or extended reality, using augmented reality and virtual reality to again, help workers do their job, give workers new experience, but also help customers interact with novel products and give them a new experience in dealing with novel products. So relatively low across the score, and we would regard it actually as quite an underrated technology and one that's poised for quite a bit of growth. So one of the reasons I kind of thought this deck, which is not my own, but it came out of Accenture research, but I thought it was quite interesting in the context of today, was I think it touches on this idea that we need to work together and form an ecosystem and learn from each other, and B, this idea of combining technologies and making sure we don't have unrealistic expectations about the maturity of certain technologies is key. And in the run-up to this show, we worked a little bit with our friends in IMR, the Irish Manufacturing Research Centre, who are collaborating with KUKA Robotics, and we kind of did some of this stuff. So we combined a bunch of technology together, and we worked with our ecosystem partners, IMR and KUKA, to see where we could push the boundaries. We did a demo. You can see it. It's just across the hall here. It's a bit of fun. It's not something that's going to change the world, but we looked at how we could combine artificial intelligence, collaborative robotics, machine vision, and augmented reality to help a worker do a task in collaboration with a robot while still getting instructions on what they have to do and how they should do their task optimally, and analyzing what they're doing to see how the process can be improved. So it's just an example of, I think, the art of the possible, where things are going, and something we want to do more of in the future. So last slide is just to give you a sense of, I mentioned that last example, assisted reality is probably one of the most underrated technologies out there at the moment. And this next example is one of a company that called Boeing, who many of you will be familiar with, but they obviously are a highly regulated industry making zero defect product, and their workforce were really struggling with some of the activity they were doing. So they reached out to their ecosystem. They collaborated with a small startup company who were active in the assisted reality space, and then they worked with Accenture as a large global integrator to help them kind of scale up the project and take it further. So it's just a bit of fun. I thought it'd be useful for people just to have a sense of what's happening in the market.
Some people have the impression that wire harnesses are an easy build. They're not. There are literally thousands and thousands of wire, typically in a manned craft or a commercial airliner.
When we first started this program, we had paper.
All the routing instructions came printed out on a big phone book, and the employee had to use a ruler to keep their place, look up, look down, look back, etc.
Then we kind of went away from that. We started pulling up our information on the laptops.
But looking at the laptop on a constant basis, your eyes are adjusting constantly. So by the end of the day, you've got a raging headache.
You have to stop what you're doing, go to the keyboard. You know, you're always kind of looking back and forth. You do kind of lose your train of thought at times. You're like, oh, did I really just see what I saw? And you have to type it up again.
We have anywhere from 3 wires, 4 wires to 90, 100 wires to go into one connector. So every little bit of technology really does help.
Start wire bundle. Scan order.
We look for the big changers. Wearables, as an example, is what we would call a step function change. Rather than picking up seconds or minutes, step function change gives us an opportunity to cut the build time by 25%.
Okay, Skylight, local search 0550.
We realized we had voice command, and that was huge. Now you have 2 hands on the product the whole time. You don't have to take anything off.
Once you put them on, you'll say, Skylight. It'll show you on the diagram, and then you'll take the wire and you'll just pop it in fast as heck.
You know, there's video streaming. If you have an issue, they can see it from their laptop or wherever because you're streaming it through your glasses. Then you can store it. Anytime you pull up that assembly, you could actually watch the video and say, okay, I need to build it like this. This is what the final product should look like.
Okay, Skylight, local search 186A.
What's the room for error in what you do?
There is no room for error. The final product, we have to send it out 100%. Could be your family, military. You can't pull over if something goes wrong, you know.
The harness that you're building gives the pilot visibility at night. The harness that you're building gives him safety visibility if something should go bad.
You know, you always want to have first-time quality. With the wearable, you always know where that wire is going to go. My team's a wonderful team to work with, and we're all very proud of our end product.
Skylight and video.
So that's not an infomercial for Accenture. That's not something Accenture worked on originally. That was something that again, Boeing worked with a small startup company that developed that software. They obviously worked with the glass. The hardware there was Google Glass. They integrated with the MES provider to pull the instructions and the activity up onto the headset. And I just think it's a great example of what's happening. And the aerospace industry, I think, is really ahead on this. And just again, to one other maybe call to action at the end. Accenture's also involved in a consortium over in the UK, and they're going to announce $121 million pound investment in creating a consortium from April called the Made Smarter Consortium. And I think last year when I was here, there was a lot of talk about what's going to happen to Ireland and the UK-Irish relations post-Brexit. But I think there's going to be a quite interesting initiative in developing an ecosystem around manufacturing in the UK in the next few years. They've already started a lot with creation of things like catapults. But the Made Smarter initiative in terms of large demonstrator builds is going to be kicking off from April. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch and important for Irish companies, either multinationals or indigenous, to kind of keep an eye on what's happening over there. So with that, thanks very much for your time, and look forward to the rest of the conference. Thank you.